Subscribe to my YouTube channel for deeply emotional, romantic, and mature stories that echo through your heart. Don't forget to like, share, and comment to support meaningful storytelling. The rain drummed against the coffee shop window. As Maya stared at her phone, her hands trembling slightly. The message was simple, yet it changed everything. We need to talk. I know about you and my husband, Victoria Sterling. Maya's heart stopped. After 18 months of carefully guarded secrets, stolen moments, and a relationship that existed in shadows, the light had finally found them. But how had Victoria discovered the truth about her arrangement with Richard Sterling, the distinguished businessman who had become so much more than just her benefactor? The story began 2 years earlier when Maya was drowning in student debt and working 3 jobs just to keep her head above water. She was 24, ambitious, and desperate for a way out of the financial quicksand that threatened to pull her dreams under. That's when she met Richard at the upscale gallery, where she worked part-time as a server for private events. Richard Sterling was everything Maya had never allowed herself to want. At 45, he possessed the kind of quiet confidence that comes from building an empire from nothing. His salt and pepper hair was perfectly styled. His designer suits fit like they were crafted for him alone. And when he smiled, it was with the warmth of someone who had learned to find joy despite carrying the weight of great responsibility. Their first conversation lasted only minutes, but Maya felt something shift inside her chest. Richard had complimented her knowledge of the artwork, and when she mentioned she was studying art history, his eyes lit up with genuine interest. Most wealthy patrons barely acknowledged her existence, but Richard saw her as a person, not just the help. "You have remarkable insight," he had said, his voice carrying a slight rasp that made her stomach flutter. "I'd love to hear more of your thoughts sometime." Maya had nodded, not trusting her voice, watching as he disappeared into the crowd of socialites and collectors. She never expected to see him again, but fate had other plans. 2 weeks later, Richard returned to the gallery, this time during regular hours. Maya was alone, cataloguing new pieces, when she heard the familiar chime of the entrance bell. She looked up to find Richard standing in the doorway, looking almost uncertain for the first time since she'd known him. "I hope you don't mind," he said, stepping closer. "I couldn't stop thinking about our conversation. I was wondering if you'd join me for coffee sometime. I'd genuinely like to pick your brain about art and life." Maya's practical mind screamed warnings, but her heart was already saying yes. There was something in Richard's eyes that spoke of loneliness, of a man who had achieved everything he'd ever wanted, but found himself hungry for something real, something meaningful. Their coffee date turned into dinner. Dinner turned into long walks through the city, and walks turned into conversations that stretched until sunrise. Richard never made her feel like a charity case, never flaunted his wealth, or made her feel small. Instead, he listened to her dreams of opening her own gallery, of traveling to see the world's greatest masterpieces, of making art accessible to everyone, not just the elite. It was during their 3rd meeting that Richard made his proposition. They were sitting in his car after another evening of deep conversation, and Maya could see the conflict in his expression. "I want to help you," he said quietly. "I know you're struggling financially, and I know you're too proud to accept charity. But what if we could help each other?" Maya's breath caught. "What do you mean?" Richard turned to face her fully, his dark eyes serious. "I'm lonely, Maya. I've been married for 20 years, but Victoria and we're strangers living in the same house. We maintain appearances for business, for society, but there's no warmth there anymore. No connection." He paused, running a hand through his hair. "I'm not asking for anything inappropriate. I just I need someone who sees me as more than just a bank account or a business contact." someone who talks to me like I'm human. In return, I'd like to help you with your expenses, your dreams. Think of it as an arrangement between friends. Maya's mind raced. The rational part of her knew she should walk away, but the struggling student buried in debt saw an opportunity for freedom. More than that, she genuinely cared about Richard. She could see the pain he carried, the way his shoulders sagged when he thought no one was looking. Just companionship? She asked softly. Just companionship, he confirmed. Dinner, conversation, maybe some cultural events. I want to support your dreams, and you'd be giving me something I haven't had in years. Genuine human connection. That night, Maya agreed to their arrangement. Richard paid off her student loans, covered her rent, and gave her a generous monthly allowance. In return, she became his confidant, his escape from a world that demanded everything but gave little. In return, for months their relationship remained exactly as promised. They would meet for dinner twice a week, attend gallery openings and theatre performances, and talk for hours about everything and nothing. Richard was careful to maintain boundaries, never pushing for more than Maya was comfortable giving. But somewhere between their discussions of Monet's Water Lily and their shared laughter over terrible romantic comedies, something deeper began to bloom. Maya found herself looking forward to their time together with an intensity that frightened her. Richard, meanwhile, seemed to come alive in her presence, his usual guardedness melting away to reveal a man who was passionate, funny, and surprisingly vulnerable. The shift happened gradually, so naturally that neither of them could pinpoint exactly when friendship became something more. It started with lingering glances, fingers brushing when he handed her wine, the way he would study her face when she was lost in thought about a painting. One evening, 6 months into their arrangement, they were walking through the sculpture garden at the museum when Maya stumbled on the uneven path. Richard caught her, his strong arms pulling her against his chest, and for a moment the world stopped. They stood there, breathing hard, faces inches apart, the weight of unspoken feelings hanging between them like a bridge neither dared to cross. Maya, Richard whispered, his voice rough with emotion. I know, she replied, her heart hammering against her ribs. I feel it too. That night he kissed her for the first time. It was soft, tentative, as if he was afraid she might disappear if he held on too tightly. When they broke apart, both of them were trembling. This complicates things, Richard said, resting his forehead against hers. Everything worth having is complicated, Maya replied, surprising herself with her boldness. From that moment, their relationship transformed. They were no longer just friends with an arrangement. They were two people falling desperately in love despite the impossible circumstances. Richard showered her with affection and attention, but never pressured her for more than she was ready to give. Maya, in turn, became his sanctuary, the one place where he could be himself without pretense or performance. Their love affair unfolded in stolen moments and secret places. Late-night dinners at quiet restaurants across town, weekend getaways to his cabin in the mountains, afternoons spent in Maya's small apartment, talking about the future they both wanted but couldn't quite reach. Richard never spoke explicitly about his marriage, but Maya could read the unhappiness in his eyes. He wore his wedding ring like a shackle, and she noticed how he would unconsciously twist it when he was stressed or sad. She never pushed him to make a choice, understanding that his situation was complex in ways she couldn't fully comprehend. I never meant for this to happen, he told her one afternoon as they lay tangled together on her couch, sunlight streaming through the windows. I never meant to fall in love with you. But you did, Maya said, tracing patterns on his chest. But I did, he confirmed, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. God help me, I did. For 18 months, they lived in their beautiful, impossible bubble. Maya finished her degree, started working at a prestigious gallery, and began planning for her own space. Richard supported her dreams while finding solace in her love, becoming the man he'd always wanted to be, but never had the courage to embrace. That secrets, no matter how carefully guarded, have a way of revealing themselves. The beginning of the end came on a Tuesday morning when Maya received a delivery at her apartment. Inside the elegant box was a vintage Cartier bracelet, Richard's early birthday gift to her. She was admiring it when her phone buzzed with a message from Richard. "Emergency board meeting. Can't see you tonight." "Miss you already," Maya understood. Richard's company was going through a major acquisition, and the stress was taking its toll on him. She had learned to be patient with the demands of his public life, even when they interfered with their private world. What she didn't know was that Victoria Sterling had been watching her husband more carefully than either of them realized. Richard's wife was many things: cold, calculating, ambitious, but she wasn't stupid. She had noticed the changes in Richard over the past year and a half. The way he hummed while getting dressed, the mysterious phone calls, the expensive gifts that appeared on his credit card statements, but never materialized in their home. Victoria hired a private investigator, and it didn't take long to uncover the truth. Photos, receipts, hotel records, the evidence painted a clear picture of Richard's double life. But instead of confronting him immediately, Victoria chose to wait, to plan, to ensure that when she made her move, it would be devastating and complete. The trap was set with surgical precision. Victoria discovered Maya's address, her workplace, her daily routine. She learned about the young woman who had captured her husband's heart and decided that the best way to destroy Richard was to destroy the thing he loved most. That brought Maya to this moment, sitting in the coffee shop, staring at Victoria's message with a mixture of terror and strange relief. The waiting was over. The secret was out. Now came the reckoning. Maya's hands shook as she typed her response. When and where? The reply came instantly. The Meridian Hotel, penthouse suite. Tonight, 8 p.m. Come alone. Maya knew the hotel. It was where she and Richard had shared their first kiss, where they had spent countless evenings talking about their dreams. The irony wasn't lost on her that Victoria had chosen this place for their confrontation. Evening approached. Maya stood before her mirror, trying to decide what one wears to face the wife of the man you love. She settled on a simple black dress, something dignified but not defiant. Her reflection looked back at her with eyes that held equal parts fear and determination. The elevator ride to the penthouse felt endless. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs as she watched the numbers climb, each floor bringing her closer to a conversation that would change everything. When the doors finally opened, she stepped into a world of marble and crystal, of wealth so profound it seemed to have its own gravity. Victoria Sterling was waiting in the center of the room, and Maya's breath caught in her throat. She had seen photos of Richard's wife, but none had captured the sharp intelligence in her blue eyes, or the way she held herself like a queen surveying her domain. Victoria was beautiful in the way that money could buy, perfectly styled, expertly maintained, every detail crafted to project power and status. "Miss Chun," Victoria said, her voice cultured and cold. "Thank you for coming." "Mrs. Sterling," Maya replied, surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. "I assume you know why I'm here." Victoria smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I know everything, dear. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Maya straightened her shoulders, drawing on reserves of strength she didn't know she possessed. "That depends on what you want from me." "What I want," Victoria said, moving to the window that overlooked the city. is for you to understand the situation you've inserted yourself into. You see, Maya, you've been playing a game without understanding the rules. She turned back to face Maya, her expression calculating. Richard is not just my husband. He's a brand, a corporate entity, a carefully constructed image that supports hundreds of employees and millions of dollars in business interests. His reputation is worth more than you could possibly imagine. I never asked him to risk any of that, Maya said quietly. No, Victoria agreed. But you accepted the benefits of his generosity without considering the cost. Did you think there would be no consequences? Did you believe you could simply take what you wanted without anyone paying the price? Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. I didn't take anything. What Richard and I have is real. It's not about money or status or any of the things you're talking about. Victoria laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Oh, my dear naive girl. Love? Is that what you call it? Let me tell you about love, real love, adult love. It's about sacrifice, about putting the needs of the other person before your own desires. It's about understanding that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let go. And what about Richard's happiness? Maya asked, her voice growing stronger. What about his right to choose his own life? Richard's happiness? Victoria's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something raw and wounded underneath. Do you think I don't know my husband is unhappy? Do you think I don't see the way he looks at me like a stranger? I've been married to him for 20 years, Maya. I know every one of his expressions, every sigh, every moment of joy and sorrow. She paused, composing herself. But I also know what he would lose if he threw away everything we've built together. His company, his reputation, his relationships with his children from my previous marriage whom he's raised as his own. I know him well enough to understand that the guilt would destroy him, even if the initial rush of freedom felt like love. Maya felt her certainty waver. That's not your choice to make for him, isn't it? Victoria moved closer, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. Let me paint you a picture of what happens next if you continue this affair. Richard leaves me, and I take half of everything in the divorce. His business partners lose confidence in his judgment. His reputation in the community is destroyed. The children lose respect for him. He becomes a middle-aged man who threw away his life for a woman young enough to be his daughter. Maya flinched at the age reference, but Victoria continued relentlessly. And you, dear Maya, become the woman who destroyed a family, who broke up a marriage, who seduced a wealthy man away from his responsibilities. How do you think that will affect your own career? Your own dreams of opening a gallery? Do you think the art world will welcome someone with that kind of reputation? You're trying to scare me, Maya said, but her voice was barely a whisper. I'm trying to make you think, Victoria replied. I'm trying to make you see beyond the romance and the passion to the real consequences of your choices. Because here's what you need to understand. I'm not going anywhere. I will not give Richard a divorce. I will not make this easy for him. If he wants to leave me, he'll have to fight for it, and that fight will cost him everything he's worked for. Maya sank into a chair, the weight of Victoria's words crushing down on her. What do you want me to do? I want you to love him enough to let him go, Victoria said, her voice softer now. I want you to be the woman he believes you are. Selfless, noble, worthy of his devotion. I want you to prove that love is about more than what you can take from someone. And if I don't? Victoria's expression hardened. Then I destroy both of you. I have photographs, financial records, hotel receipts. I have enough evidence to paint a very ugly picture of your relationship. I can make sure you never work in the art world again. And I can make sure Richard loses everything he's built. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of an impossible choice. How do I know you won't do that anyway? Because I'm not a monster, Victoria said, surprising Maya with the sincerity in her voice. I'm a woman trying to protect her life, her marriage, and yes, even her husband from making a mistake that will destroy him. If you walk away cleanly, if you disappear from his life without drama or scandal, then your secret dies with me. Maya opened her eyes, studying Victoria's face. You really believe he'll be happier without me? I believe he'll be whole without you, Victoria replied. And sometimes that's more important than happiness. The room fell silent except for the distant hum of the city below. Maya sat with her thoughts, weighing love against consequences, passion against pragmatism. She thought about Richard's face when he laughed, the way he held her like she was precious, the dreams they had shared in whispered conversations. But she also thought about the guilt she sometimes saw in his eyes, the way he twisted his wedding ring when he was stressed, the careful way he had to plan their meetings to avoid detection. She thought about the toll their secret was taking on both of them, the constant fear of discovery, the way their love existed in shadows. If I do this, Maya said finally, if I walk away, how do I know you won't just find another reason to hurt him? Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Because despite what you might think, I don't want to hurt Richard. I want to save him. From himself, from this situation, from the destruction that's coming if things continue as they are. You love him too, Maya realized suddenly. Victoria's carefully constructed mask cracked slightly. I love the man I married. I love the life we built together. I love the future we planned. Whether that's the same as the love you feel for him, I don't know. But it's real, and it's mine. And I'm not giving it up without a fight. Maya stood up, decision crystallizing in her mind. I need to talk to Richard first. I need to tell him myself. No, Victoria said firmly. If you speak to him, he'll try to convince you to stay. He'll make promises he can't keep. Paint pictures of a future that doesn't exist. The only way this works is if you disappear cleanly. I can't just vanish from his life without explanation. That would destroy him. Victoria reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. I'll give him this letter. You can explain your decision in your own words. But you have to leave, Maya. Tonight. Tomorrow at the latest. Maya stared at the envelope, her final chance. To say goodbye to the man who had changed her life in ways she was only beginning to understand. And if I don't, then we all go down together, Victoria said simply. And I promise you, I'm much better at surviving disasters than either of you are. Maya took the envelope with trembling hands. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you think there's any part of him that could learn to love you again? Victoria's composure finally cracked, revealing the vulnerable woman beneath the ice-cold exterior. I don't know, she whispered. But I'd rather spend the rest of my life trying to earn back his love than watch him destroy himself for someone else's. Maya nodded, understanding for the first time that Victoria wasn't just a jealous wife or a calculating socialite. She was a woman fighting for her marriage, her life, her future. She was doing what she believed was best for everyone involved, even if it meant being the villain in someone else's love story. I'll need a few days to arrange things, Maya said. You have 24 hours, Victoria replied. After that, I can't guarantee I'll be able to contain this situation. Maya walked toward the elevator, the envelope clutched in her hand like a lifeline. As the doors closed, she saw Victoria standing by the window, looking out at the city lights, and for a moment, she seemed less like a powerful woman and more like someone who was just as trapped as Maya felt. The next morning, Maya sat at her kitchen table, staring at a blank piece of paper. How do you say goodbye to someone who has become your entire world? How do you explain that love sometimes means walking away? She began to write, "My dearest Richard, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. Please don't try to find me. Please, don't blame yourself for what happened. What we had was real and beautiful and perfect in its own way, but it couldn't last forever. I'm not leaving because I don't love you. I'm leaving because I do. I love you too much to watch you destroy everything you've built for me. I love you too much to be the reason you lose your children, your business, your standing in the community. You gave me more than money or security. You gave me confidence, dreams, a belief in myself that I never had before. You showed me what it feels like to be cherished, to be seen, to be loved completely. I will carry that with me for the rest of my life. But I also see the cost this relationship is taking on you. I see the guilt in your eyes, the way you worry about being discovered, the careful planning required for us to spend time together. That's not love, Richard. That's a prison we've built for ourselves, though. I want you to be happy. I want you to find peace. I want you to be the man you were meant to be, not the man you've become because of the choices we've made together. Maybe, in another life, another time, we could have been everything to each other. But in this life, the most loving thing I can do is let you go. Please don't hate me for this. Please remember the good times, the laughter, the dreams we shared. Please remember that every moment we spent together was a gift, even if it couldn't last forever. I love you. I will always love you. And that's exactly why I have to say goodbye. Forever yours, Maya. Maya sealed the letter and left it on her kitchen counter. She had already packed her bags, already made arrangements to stay with her sister across the country, while she figured out her next steps. The gallery had been understanding when she gave her notice, and her landlord had agreed to let her out of her lease early. By evening, she was on a plane, watching the city lights fade below her. She thought about Richard discovering her letter, about the pain and confusion he would feel. She thought about Victoria, winning her victory but perhaps not finding the satisfaction she had hoped for. Most of all, she thought about love, not the fairy tale kind that conquers all, but the real kind that sometimes requires sacrifice, that sometimes means choosing what's best for someone else, even when it breaks your own heart. 3 weeks later, Maya was working at a small gallery in Portland, trying to build a new life from the pieces of her old one. She had avoided all social media, all news from her former city, all temptation to reach out to Richard or check on how he was doing. But love, like secrets, has a way of finding the light. The call came on a Tuesday evening. Maya almost didn't answer the unfamiliar number, but something made her pick up. Maya? The voice was older, more tired than she remembered, but unmistakably Richard's. Her heart stopped. Richard? How did you— I hired the same investigator Victoria used, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I had to find you. I had to know if what she told me was true. What did she tell you? That you left to protect me? That you loved me enough to walk away? That you sacrificed your happiness for mine? His voice cracked. Is that true? Maya closed her eyes, feeling the familiar ache of missing him. It's complicated. I left her, Maya. I left Victoria. I filed for divorce 3 days after you disappeared. Maya's breath caught. Richard, no. That's not what I wanted. That's not why I know why you left, he said. I understand what you were trying to do. But here's what you need to understand. I'm not the same man I was when we met. Loving you changed me. You changed me. And I can't go back to being the person who settles for a life without love, just because it's easier. The cost is mine to pay, Richard said firmly. The consequences are mine to face. You don't get to make that choice for me, Maya. You don't get to decide what I can and can't sacrifice for love. Maya felt tears streaming down her face. What about your business? Your reputation? My business will survive. My reputation will recover. But I will never recover from losing you if I don't at least try to make this right. Victoria said she wouldn't give you a divorce. Richard laughed, but it was hollow. Victoria has her own secrets, Maya. Her own vulnerabilities. When I told her I knew about the investigator, about her threats to you, she realized that playing hardball would only destroy us both. She agreed to the divorce. Just like that. Just like that. Turns out she's been having her own affair for the past 5 years with her business partner. She was protecting her own interests as much as mine. Maya sank into a chair, overwhelmed by the revelation. So what happens now? Now I'm asking you to come home, Richard said. Not to our old arrangement. Not to stolen moments and secret meetings. I'm asking you to come home to a real relationship, to a real future. I'm asking you to marry me, Maya. The words hit her like a physical blow. Richard, I know it's crazy. I know it's fast. I know there will be challenges and complications and people who will judge us. But I also know that I love you more than I've ever loved anything in my life. I know that these past 3 weeks without you have been the longest, emptiest weeks of my existence. I know that nothing I've built, nothing I've achieved, nothing I own means anything without you to share it with. Maya wiped her eyes, trying to process everything he was saying. What if it doesn't work? What if the real world is too much for us? Then we'll figure it out together, Richard said. Like people who love each other do. Like partners do. Like husband and wife do. Maya looked around her small apartment, at the life she had been trying to build from the ashes of her old one. It was safe, predictable, free from complications. It was also lonely and incomplete. I'm scared, she admitted. So am I, Richard replied. But I'm more scared of a life without you than I am of a life with you. Say yes, Maya. Say you'll come home. Say you'll marry me. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision. She thought about Victoria's words, about the consequences of love, about the cost of choosing happiness over security. She thought about fairy tales and real life, about the difference between love that conquers all and love that survives everything. Yes, she whispered. Yes. Yes, I'll come home. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes to all of it. Richard's laugh was pure joy. I love you, Maya-chan. I love you more than I ever thought possible. I love you too, she replied, smiling through her tears. I love you enough to come home. 6 months later, Maya stood in the garden of Richard's country house, wearing a simple white dress and holding a bouquet of wildflowers. The wedding was small, just a few close friends and family members who had supported their unconventional love story. As she walked toward Richard, who was waiting for her with tears in his eyes and a smile that could light up the world, Maya thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. It hadn't been easy. There had been challenges, judgment from some quarters, and moments when they both wondered if love was enough to overcome the obstacles in their path. But here they were, choosing each other not in secret or shadow, but in the full light of day. They had learned that true love isn't about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who inspires you to complete yourself. It's about choosing each other every day, even when it's difficult, even when it's complicated, even when the world doesn't understand. As Richard took her hand, and they spoke their vows, Maya realized that sometimes the most beautiful love stories are the ones that almost end before they begin. Sometimes the deepest love comes from choosing each other not just once, but again and again, through every challenge and every joy. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, love really can conquer all, Not because it's easy, but because it's worth fighting for. The sun set behind them as they kissed, husband and wife, partners in every sense of the word. They had found their way back to each other through heartbreak and sacrifice, through fear and courage, through the kind of love that changes everything and makes it all worthwhile. In the end, that's what love is, not a fairy tale, but a choice. The choice to see someone completely, to accept them fully, and to commit to growing together through whatever life brings. Maya and Richard had made that choice, and in doing so, they had created their own kind of happy ending. One that was real, complicated, imperfect, and absolutely beautiful.